Hi everyone, TechBob with eTech here, and today I will be reviewing the back glass replacement process on an iPhone using one of our laser machines. Let's get started.
These are the repair steps that will be covered in today's video. These are two lasers we currently offer. On the left we have the M-Triangle Z1, and on the right we have the forward blue light laser machine.
The laser machine we'll be using in today's video is the M-Triangle Z1 fiber laser. This machine has come out recently and we really like it due to its optical focus, which is a little bit quicker, and the overall speed of running the machine through a phone. On average, it takes about 1 to 2 minutes to complete the laser process. An additional machine we recommend using during the back glass replacement process using a fiber laser, or really any laser, is a good Fume Extractor air purifier. Some machines do come with a Fume Extractor, such as the forward blue laser. The M-Triangle lasers do not. They're a little bit bigger and higher grade, so you'd have to buy one separately. But this version right here is from TBK. It is an extractor and purifier, so not only does it pull the smoke out, but it actually purifies the air so you don't get as much of a smell as if you use just an extractor or you didn't use one at all. It also comes with this acrylic sort of cage that I'll be showing shortly, which seals in all of the smoke, so it basically creates a vacuum on the laser platform, so all of the smoke gets extracted straight into the purifier. This one is pretty strong. You'll notice when I turn it on, it kind of sounds like a jet engine going. That's how you know it's working. So we definitely recommend this option, and you'll be seeing it shortly on the laser machine as we go through the burning process. These are the tools that I'll be using in today's video, which we find really make the entire back glass replacement process easier. I'm going to start on my far left and work my way across, just calling out what each tool is and what it does. We'll also link these tools to the description of the video, showing where you can find them on our site. So starting with on the far left, this is referred to as a back glass press. So we use this when we're done gluing the new glass onto the phone. The press right here will help add pressure onto the back of the device so the glass really sits in there while the glue dries. This tool is great. Safety glasses, these are very important to use during the process. You're literally prying shards of glass towards yourself in some cases, so don't want to get any of that in the eyes, so always wear safety glasses when doing this. This is just a cleaning brush that's used to sweep up the area once you get glass that pops off of the device. This right here is just some tape. I believe it's referred to as ducting tape. We use this to cover certain spots of the device that we don't want the laser to hit, which I'll show shortly once we start doing the laser process, but that's just ducting tape. We have some scissors. These are referred to as sewing scissors or thread cutting scissors. We find them really good for cutting things like intricate tape like this or adhesive, so these are great to have. This is a blade holder, X-Acto style, and just blade, a flat blade. This is the actual tool we use to pry the glass off of the phone once the lasers run through the device. This right here is referred to as the GD10 back glass breaking pen. This tool is great because what it does is help break up any glass that's still really stuck onto the phone. So we really recommend using this, especially on your newer series phones like the iPhone 11. So this thing is great to have. This right here is the adhesive we use to glue the new glass on. There are different types of adhesive out there, such as like the original epoxy that comes on the device, but we like this adhesive for a couple reasons. One, it dries pretty quickly. It gives it a good feel whenever it sits down. Cleanup is minimal, and also if you do have to take the glass off for whatever reason, or you get a customer that comes back that's broken their back glass again, it's a lot easier to take the back glass off once it's already been replaced once and use this glue. We've done probably hundreds, if not 500 back glass replacements by now with this glue, and it's worked great for us. This right here is just a pack of microfiber cloths. This really helps with the cleanup of the back of the frame. Once you get the back glass off, there's debris and dust left from where the lasers burned the glue, the epoxy holding the back glass on. So it's just good to have something to clean up with. But these are right here. And these last two right here are just alcohol dispensing bottles. This one right here has sort of a push pump on top. You just push it, alcohol comes out on top. That's good for dipping your microfiber in. And then this right here is just a squeeze bottle with a needle. It also has alcohol in it. This is good for whenever you're dealing with spots of the back glass that are still stuck on because the laser doesn't hit. For example, I'll be showing this as well, but the flash area, the microphone area of the device, because there's double-sided adhesive and not epoxy, the laser doesn't hit that, so you have to be careful to not rip those cables. A couple drops of alcohol from this needle bottle really help. And those are all the tools we'll be using in today's video. The backglass replacement process begins with testing the device, making sure that all functions are properly working prior to running the device through the laser or prying off the backglass. It's very important to make sure you check everything, because we found that sometimes Face ID may not work, the cameras may not work, you may have buttons that don't function, the device doesn't charge, power button doesn't work. If any of those things are not working, it's important to let the customer know prior to doing the backglass so they don't think that you did something during the repair. We always recommend using an intake checklist. We have an example of this on our site, or when you do a board level repair with us or a mail-in repair with us. But it's important to just properly test the device beforehand to ensure that you don't run into any surprises down the line. This device is actually in for screen repair and backglass repair. What we recommend is that if you're doing both repairs, do the backglass first. That way your new screen doesn't get damaged or scratched or nothing happens to it in the repair process. So do the backglass and then go for the screen. One thing you can do that we recommend doing, if you're not doing the screen replacement, you're just doing the backglass, you want to protect the glass side, so pretend this screen isn't broken. We don't want this screen to get scratched by the shards of glass that come off when removing them from the back of the phone. So we're going to use is just a tape gun. This is standard packing tape. I'm going to tape off the screen. And this is going to help protect the glass from becoming damaged while we are prying off the back glass. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but just you want to cover the main surface area of the screen. And this is just as an example, since again this screen is cracked. You typically don't need to tape the screen if it's cracked and you're going to be replacing it, but say you're not replacing the screen or it's not cracked, you want to protect it. So just use some packing tape. That's the quickest thing we found. In a pinch, Scotch tape works well as also, so you can use that too. I do recommend taking the thread cutting scissors and cutting off the excess tape prior to continuing the repair process. This just makes cleanup a little easier so the glass shards don't get stuck in the tape. And then also when you go and put the device on the machine, the tape doesn't get in the way with your alignment. An additional prep item as far as the back glass replacement goes, at this point, we want to make sure we cover any exposed area of glass. So if any glass is missing, which it looks like we're good, there's a little bit missing right here, but it's on the edge of the frame where there's metal, so that's going to be fine. But I do want to cover this rear camera lens. When you do your first couple devices at least, you want to make sure that you're having the best success rate possible. One, so you're not damaging phones, but also so it kind of keeps your confidence up for doing other back glass replacements. If you have everything aligned when you're running your laser machine, you don't have to worry about this, but for your first couple, we do recommend just getting a little bit of this ducting tape, covering that lens up, and then just cutting off the excess with the thread scissors. Again, it doesn't have to cover anything else besides the rear camera lens. But this right here, even if the laser for some reason was not aligned, if it hit this, your camera is perfectly safe. You don't have to cover things like the flasher microphone. I've never seen the laser hit that, but the lens itself, it might hit the paint on the edge of the bezel, the little ring that covers the lens, so you want to make sure that that is protected. But as far as protection on this one, that's it. Aside from the tape on the screen, that one ducting tape spot, that's it. That's all we're gonna protect when it comes to repairing this device. This is the software that runs the fiber laser machines. The M-Triangle Z1 laser we'll be using today will be controlled by this software. It comes preloaded with the templates needed to do a back glass on a phone, so I'm gonna go through setting up all of the settings, which it's only a couple, and then loading the template. For today's video, we'll be taking the back glass or replacing the back glass on an iPhone 8. So I'm gonna find that template. So we're gonna go to iPhone, select entry. We're gonna go find our iPhone 8. Make sure you choose 8 back cover or rear cover and not screen. because we will be burning the back glass off, not the screen. The laser machine can be used for refurbishing screens, but it's basically just used to take the bezel off of the screen. It doesn't remove the glass or anything like that. Getting the zoom right there. But this right here is what you want. You'll notice that there are certain areas where there's not black. That is very important. Whenever you're choosing a template, you want to make sure you're using a template that has all of these cutouts. It is different model to model, so make sure you're using the template specific to that model. And the reason for this is you don't want the laser to hit areas that don't have metal. Areas that are exposed that either lead to the board or that lead to a flex cable. So a couple quick examples are you have your charging port down here. The flex is just exposed, so you don't want the laser to hit that. There's an opening right here, which I believe is the board side, so you don't want to hit that either. This big opening in the center is your wireless charging layer. It's a flex cable with no metal behind it, so you don't want the laser to hit that. You have your rear camera area, which is also including the microphone and flash, and then a couple other cutouts that expose, they're usually antenna related, openings in the frame so it can get signal. But it's important that one, you use the right template so it doesn't hit that, and two, that everything is aligned. So that's the template we're going to be using. The next thing, the only settings that we typically change are the speed. We found that 7500 works very well. I believe it starts at 1000 on most of the templates, but you can up that. And then power, we run power at 100. We've done hundreds of phones with this machine, and these settings are what we found work the best and are also the safest for the machine. So before we actually begin lasering the phone, we want to make sure that everything is set up correctly. So a couple things here settings wise, you can select the mark total, which the mark total basically is telling the machine how many times to run the entire template on the phone. You typically don't have to do this more than once. We found some devices, because the glue, they either put more on from the production process, or the glass is just thicker. You might have to run it a couple times, but really never more than 2. For today's video, I'm gonna run it once just to show you guys how the process is with running the machine only one time. If I have to run it a second time, I'll include that in the video as well, but if it's only one pass needed, that's what we're gonna end up with. So we'll leave that at 1. We're actually not gonna click. Here we have the platform of the M-Triangle Z1 laser machine. Prior to aligning the device and using the template and running the machine, we want to make sure that we have the the focus of the machine set correctly. So this little red dot right here is what you want on typically the center of the device, so it's right in the center point. You hit the autofocus button, and what that's telling the machine to do is raise or lower the laser head to get the proper height so it knows exactly where to burn. If you don't run this autofocus step in your laser process, you may end up with a device that doesn't have the back glass burned on it at all, or it's only going to burn in some spots. So make sure you're focusing prior to beginning the process. So now that we've autofocused, the next thing we're going to do is hit red light outline on our computer, and you'll see it's basically running the template, or the red laser is showing you where the template on the computer is and where it's going to burn. So what we're going to do here is make sure that we properly align this. We start with the edges, making sure that's all good. You typically want to do one at a time, so you get your left and right alignment set, and then you do your top and bottom. It's right there. It looks like we've got top and bottom. Okay, looks like we're gonna be good there. So the alignment is important to get exact. If you're not sure on your first couple phones as far as what the red light looks like, we do recommend, if you have any parts phones at your store or dead devices that customers have surrendered, do your first couple back glasses on those devices just to be safe that you're getting all the alignment right. Once you do a couple, your eye sort of trains on the red light outline and you're good to go from there. But it is important to kind of get a feel for it before you go live on customer phones. But this alignment is great right now, so we're gonna go ahead and run the burning process. So I'm gonna hit stop on the computer side, which stops the red light outline, and then I'm going to hit mark, and that will start the burning process. This should take about a minute. I'm gonna let the whole process play. If it ends up being too long a video, I'll fast forward it, but Typically, it's about under a minute, so let's get that started right now. So that first pass was done in about 2 minutes, so a little longer than a minute. I did not show the fume extractor on this pass so you could see the smoke. I'm gonna run it one more time just so you guys can see the difference. And it let off a little bit of smoke, but nothing too crazy. The fume extractor really helps when you're running, I would say, 5+ back glasses a day, because that fume really starts to add up. So I'm gonna turn the extractor on. You'll hear the sound. I'm gonna run it one more time and hit mark. And hopefully you can hear me over the extractor in the machine, but this pass will really just help the back glass come off a little bit easier. And I can definitely tell, you can't smell it through the camera, but there's a lot less of a burning smell. It's not that bad with the fiber laser due to how it burns the glue under the glass, but the extractor definitely helps. So we'll let it run this second time with the extractor on. You'll see this plexiglass cage is pretty cool because it basically sucks down onto the platform of the machine. So you have a pretty tight seal there. So now we have the finished second pass. We can remove the plexiglass cage from the laser machine. And right now we have our phone that has been completely lasered. And you'll see that the cutouts that I mentioned on the computer side earlier are shown here. Again, the wireless charging layer, your charging port, your camera area, and then a couple other spots where the board is exposed. This looks good. So what we're gonna do is jump over to our repair area. So now that the back glass has been lasered, we are ready to begin the next step in the repair process, which is prying off the back glass. One quick thing before we do that is we do recommend testing the device here. And it is a little bit hard to do or to see now since the screen is covered in tape. We want to make sure that everything is still functioning properly. If you are having issues when you do a back glass repair, say your phone is boot looping after, running slow, or not turning on at all, it's important to know what's causing that. In extremely rare cases, the laser can cause it, but only when alignment is really far off. And what I mean by that is it's shifted really far to the left or right or up or down, where these cutouts aren't being left there and it's actually burning through that. But if you're ensuring that your alignment is correct, your machine is calibrated, then there's no worry there. So typically it's not the laser, but the actual prying off of the back glass that causes the damage. So if you test the device here, we ensure that everything is still functioning and that there's no issues with the device that happened because of the laser machine. So I'm going to briefly test this device. We do recommend at least testing it for at least 5 minutes just to make sure that you don't have any power related issues. If you do have a power related issue, it's going to happen within the first 5 minutes of the device turning on. So what I'm going to do is open the cameras. So I have my rear camera right now, which again, it's black, probably because it's covered with this tape. So you can peel that off just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with it, which it's impossible for someone to be wrong with it now since it's covered. I'm going to switch to the front camera. It's a little bit hazy because I have some tape over it as well. But again, just making sure they open, make sure my buttons still work, make sure the home button's working. This is an iPhone 8, so it doesn't have Face ID, but if you have a device that has Face ID, it is extremely important to make sure that your Face ID is still working. That's one of those issues where unfortunately you can't fully fix unless you know how to micro solder and can swap over sensors, but it's an extremely difficult process. So we recommend testing everything from the start as well as at this point right here. So this is technically our second testing point so far in the repair process. I'm gonna turn the phone off. We prefer, or we do recommend that the device is powered off whenever you're repairing it, whether that's a screen or whatever repair process you're going through, just to make sure there's no issues with blowing backlight filters or damaging anything else on the device. So that's the second testing point done. Let's begin with prying off the back glass next. Now we will begin actually prying the back glass off of the device. The first thing I'm going to do is put on my safety glasses, as I mentioned earlier, just to make sure I don't get any shards of glass in my eyes. It's very fine glass that you're popping off, so you want to make sure that it doesn't get into your eyes. And then the other tools I've already covered as an intro to this video, but these are the specific tools I'm using on this step. I have just a small anti-static mat here that kind of helps keep everything clean. We have a larger version as well, but just some type of mat to keep everything contained. I have the blade, which is the main pry tool I'm going to be using to take this back glass off, the back glass breaking pen, the alcohol bottle with a needle, just to help get off the adhesive that holds our flash and our rear microphone, and then just a brush to help with the cleanup. So to get started here, we typically recommend starting near the bottom of the phone and working your way up. The hardest part is typically going to be around the camera, but you want to make sure that just as the laser uses these areas as danger zones, the spots where it didn't burn, you also want to use those spots as a guide for danger zones with your blade. As I mentioned earlier, most of the time when we see issues with the back glass replacement process, it happens right here with prying off the back glass. And typically it's a blade that slips and hits the charging port, or rips the wireless charging layer, or a microphone, or anything that's flex related. So we want to make sure we avoid that. To get a good starting point, you can sometimes start on the edge. So to get started, I'm going to take the back glass breaking pen, and this does have adjustable tension. We already have it set to where we'd like it, but what we recommend here is usually pulling it out as far as you can and then going in further so you can test what tension works best for you. And caution points, you don't want to use this pen wherever the laser didn't cut. So I'm going to start right here, help get a little crack area. Now I should be able to get my blade underneath that glass. Again, while you're doing this, be careful around those danger areas. What I recommend doing is pry the glass away from those areas, and typically it'll be stuck to your to the other piece. It'll just lift up. I'm gonna use this brush to kind of move stuff over. Again, you have certain areas where there is double-sided adhesive holding it down. So again, this wireless charging layer, be careful. There's a plastic bezel that runs along the edge of the frame. You want to make sure that you don't damage that bezel, because if you do, you'll end up with a gap on the side of the device when you put the new glass on. As you've noticed by the change of the color of this mat, it can be a messy process. So you will have to wash your hands after this. You can wear gloves. It's up to everyone's sort of preference whenever you are doing repairs, but we personally do not use them just because they do kind of interfere with your mobility. majority off. Last couple pieces, and this is again that cautionary I mentioned. You have your flash and your microphone. Just going to carefully separate this. Because we're seeing what you're doing is super important. It's good to get up close to it. I can't get super close right now because my head will be in the camera. But this is that microphone where I mentioned you can tear if you're not careful. I didn't end up needing the alcohol bottle for this one because of how the glass broke. But if I did need it, I would just apply a little bit of alcohol in this area right here to help get that released. Let's finish up the glass here on the camera. Here on the frame. Make sure if your blade does get loose, you tighten the holder again so it doesn't slide out. If you run into an issue with the piece of glass not coming off, you are okay to use the back glass pen. Especially around the camera area, this is where you do want to use this pen. Okay, at this point, looks like all the glass is off. Before we try dry fitting our new piece of glass to make sure that it truly is good, this is a good time for cleanup. So we have all our shards of glass over here on the left. We're gonna take our alcohol bottle and we're gonna take the microfiber cloths. Kind of clean up your mat as well. Which it's not important to clean it up all the way right now because you are still dealing with this powder from the back glass, but we can go ahead and clean up our frame too. And again, the goal to cleaning off this dust is one, it gives a better repair experience or look for the customer. If they do see this, if they're watching you do it, which, by the way, we don't recommend the customer watching this because it is, as you've seen, kind of a eye-opening process to how the back glass is taken off. They may think it just pops off, but as you've seen, it doesn't. And also, this kind of helps with the smell as well. A lot of the burnt smell comes from this powder when you run it through the machine, so getting as much of this off as you can will help in avoiding that smell lingering. So here the device looks pretty good. It's clean. Now, we usually get the question asked, do we need to remove all this old adhesive layer? So you see the stuff that's still on there. We recommend leaving this stuff on because it does help with the spacing of the back glass. So if you take it all off, it's possible your back glass will sit sunken in the frame and it doesn't look the best. So we do recommend leaving some of that on there, or leaving the stuff that is still hard on there. And then what we're doing right now is I took the new glass, put it on here just to make sure that everything sits right, go around all of your edges. It looks like everything is good right now. And this is a repetitive process. So if you put the phone on there and you realize that it doesn't sit right, don't push it because it's gonna crack. Check that area, pry off the glass that's still remaining, and then try the glass again. Another thing that we recommend here is a testing point. So I mentioned before, we test the phone about 4 different times. So far we've tested it twice. This is the third point. This is to make sure that the phone was not damaged by the back glass prying off process, which would have involved hitting the charging port, the wireless charging layer, microphone, or other part that's exposed. The phone is booting right now, so we'll let it turn on. Enter the password, do that off camera. Get in, and then again, make sure everything works. So the camera is opening now because I don't have the tape anymore. Front camera is still working, home button still works, volume, buttons, mute switch, power button. It looks like we are still good to go. And again, this is not the all-inclusive testing process. This is just a quick one for the sake of the video. But we do recommend fully testing everything at this point. And again, at least for 5 minutes to make sure you don't have any boot looping issues going on. So now that the frame is clean, we are ready to put the new glass on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So here we have the clean frame. As far as applying the new glass, what we're gonna do here is apply our glue, which I mentioned earlier is the E8000. I'm gonna take a thin layer and apply it to the entire perimeter of the frame, so the entire edge. And then for the center, I'm basically just gonna trace over where the glue was before. That's really all that the manufacturer put on there, so we're gonna do the same thing. And just check all your areas before you put the glass on, because if you do put the glass on and then have to take it back off, it's not as clean of a process. You start getting glue everywhere, which isn't fun. So that looks good. Put the top back on this glue so it doesn't come out more. And I'm going to take my glass, I'm going to lay it on to my device, give it a good press to make sure it really sits down in there. It looks good. Now I'm going to take the device and I'm going to put it into the back glass press. So take the device like this, slide it into the back glass press, tighten, and really what you want to do here is just apply a good amount of pressure. You don't want, when it gets to the point where you have to start tightening with your full hand, not just a couple fingers, I would stop there and then let this sit for about 15 minutes. That should be enough time for the glue to start settling in and bonding. We get asked the question, how do you clean up the excess glue? You will have excess glue no matter how much or how little you put on there. It just, from the pressure, it seeps out of the side. The way we found the best to do that is once it starts to dry, it sort of beads up and it gets solid. It's easy to just rub it off with your thumb or using a microfiber such as this to clean off the edge. But we'll let that sit for about 15 minutes and then keep going with reviewing and cleaning of the device. The device has been in the back glass press for about 15 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and pull it out now. Again, we're just gonna, on the edges, use our thumb to roll away any loose glue or any glue that's seeped up over the edge. I'm gonna take another microfiber and a little bit of alcohol to help with this process, just to to make sure it's clean. And you can remove the plastic at this point just to make sure you can fully see everything. And I do like putting it back on so it gives it a newer look and feel. And then I said 4 testing points before. So far we have 3. This is your final testing point. So this is where we would turn the device on. And at this point, because we're done with dealing with broken shards of glass everywhere, we are good to peel our packing tape protector off. So I'm going to do that now. The phone, again, make sure everything still works. Cameras are the big one. Front camera, rear camera. Buttons. And again, you would go through the entire testing process. But this repair, as you see, the screen is broken. The customer does want it fixed so it's not fully complete, but the back glass portion is now done. So as you saw in the video, the back glass replacement process, I would say on average takes about 30 minutes to complete once you've gotten the process down. This was Tech Bob with eTech. Thanks everyone for watching today's video. We'll see you next time.